Warhammer, a worldwide phenomenon that has its humble beginnings back in 1983 in a small shop in Hammersmith, London, with Games Workshop's first game, Warhammer, or what we know today as Warhammer Fantasy. It wasn't until 1987 that this then small company released a new game set in the far reaches of the 40th millennium known as Rogue Trader. Little did they know that this sci-fi fantasy tabletop game would explode into the cultural phenomenon we know today as Warhammer 40k. But with all the other hobbies that might be vying for our attention and wallet, it begs the question, why Warhammer? Well, let's talk about it. But welcome back everyone, it's me the Warhammer complainy guy, Revan/Handy, destroyer of wallets and maker of terrible financial decisions. Back with another video that can hopefully earn your subscription and a like for the almighty YouTube algorithm. So after much contemplation and a ton of Arnold Palmers, I thought it might be an interesting idea to make a video exploring the idea of why Warhammer. Also, I'm not shilling Warhammer. If you've seen any of my other videos or tuned into when I stream, you would know I'm probably one of the most vocal Warhammer critics out there that actually does some research on said topics. But the question of why Warhammer can be taken multiple ways. Like, why should I get into Warhammer? Why is there an ungodly amount of lore? Why is this army so cool? Why are the minis so fucking expensive? To name a few. So why Warhammer? Well, this is a question a lot of people ask because Warhammer is one of those hobbies that people know about, but frankly push towards the back of their minds because they think it's all about painting miniatures and a bunch of sweaty nerds rolling dice. Well, actually, it isn't. Warhammer has multiple forms of media you can consume. Like many video games, I'm sure that you've at least played one of, like Space Marine 2 or any of the Total Warhammer games. Everyone is most familiar with these games because Space Marine 2 is still going strong with all the updates and even mod support, and Total Warhammer is, well, Total Warhammer. It has a hardcore following, and it's probably one of the more popular Warhammer games to make YouTube videos about. But if video games are not really your thing either, then maybe the decades of lore and all the Black Library novels and audiobooks will be. If you're more of a lore buff, all the novels and even codexes contain select stories about the entire universe of Warhammer, going all the way back to its inception. But if you're interested in the miniatures and the far reaches of the 41st millennium are not really your thing, there's also the Old World, Age of Sigmar, or any of the other games GW produces. So you can rest assured that there will be a side to Warhammer that interests you. That's one of the great things about Warhammer. If you don't like this setting, maybe you'll like this setting. Even though, let's be honest, with the variety of miniatures GW produces, you'll probably own minis from pretty much every game system or books from any setting. This is the route I feel a lot of us veteran Warhammer fans move towards as we become more jaded, because if one game system is shit, then we just move on to another one, and this cycle repeats over and over again, going back and forth every few years. But if you just like painting the miniatures, which is the route I've taken, there's no harm in buying a miniature you think looks cool, which is what we call the rule of cool. This is the cardinal rule of Warhammer. Get whatever you think looks or sounds cool, be it a miniature or a novel. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one staring at it on a shelf or sitting down for a few hours reading. But now we get into the next question. Why should I get into Warhammer? Well, okay, this is just me being brutally honest. If you want to get into Warhammer, please for the love of God do some research to find out exactly what you like about Warhammer. Is it because you like the lore? Do you want to paint some miniatures or just start a collection? Or do you just want to play video games? Well, Warhammer as the years have gone on has turned into what is called a luxury hobby, even though a lot of hobbies can be classified as this, but more so for Warhammer purely because compared to other tabletop games, yeah, this is ridiculous. But GW has been slowly but constantly increasing the prices of the miniatures and books to some degree, so no matter what side of the hobby you're in, it comes at a premium unfortunately. I'm bringing this up because if you do eventually want to play the game, you probably will want a 2000 point army, and this applies to both 40k and Sigmar. I have made a few videos outlining how much an average 2000 point 40k army costs. And if we factor in supplies too, like glues, paints, and brushes, if you go the smart route, which is value boxes, an army including the cost of supplies will run you about 900 freedom bucks or 675 heathen pounds. And depending on how fast you paint, that $800 can span months or even years. Ask me how I know. Because the journey is always more fun when you take your time and not bum rush through it, because then you learn nothing. But like I mentioned earlier, Warhammer isn't just about the minis. So if you don't like the minis for any of GW's IPs, give the video games or even the books a try. For the books, Barnes & Noble usually has a lot of the more popular Warhammer books usually in stock, like Lion Son of the Forest, Infinite and the Divine, Brutal Cunning, and some of the more popular omnibuses. Then for video games, yeah, just go on Steam or whatever the console pleb stores are called and search Warhammer. You'll find a ton of results. Some of the more popular Warhammer games are Darktide, Vermintide 2, Space Marine 2, and the Total Warhammer series. But you should think about maybe getting to Warhammer if any of these apply to you. You find the universe and its lore interesting, you want a hobby that's relaxing after a long day of work where you can sit back and paint, if you like video games and number 1 applies to you, you want to learn a new skill like miniature painting, you want to read a fun book, you want to make new friends. Okay, this is both a joke and me being somewhat serious. You somehow have funds you can burn and you're bored. If any of these apply to you, give Warhammer a try. But if you do want to get an army and want to eventually play the game, you might need a carrying case, like from today's sponsor, Tabletop Stronghold. Tabletop Stronghold is your one-stop shop for both miniature carrying cases and terrain. If you want your minis to be safe, the Mag Case 2.0 is made of very strong MDF, so you can be sure it'll protect your minis and get the job done. The Mag Case 2.0 comes in multiple sizes, so no matter what army size you have, it'll fit in one of these cases on any of these adjustable trays using the power of magnets that have been blessed by the all-powerful magnet wizard. Because I bought this overpriced plastic, so I'm getting my money's worth, God Emperor, damn it. I myself have the Mag Case 2.0 Mini, which is perfect for any elite army that doesn't involve oversized chunks of plastic or resin for obvious reasons. So no matter which size mag case you get, your army will be safe and secure. Also, Tabletop Stronghold is having a Halloween sale of up to 35% off. So if you want to be a massive help to the channel, use my link in the pinned comment or description. So thank you Tabletop Stronghold for sponsoring this video. If you want some terrain or a Mag Case 2.0 that ships to pretty much anywhere in the world for free, go to tabletopstronghold.com. But the reason I bring up a carrying case like the Mag Case 2.0 is because when you go to the game store with your Mag Case 2.0, you become a part of something greater. You become a part of the Warhammer community. Okay, terrible jokes aside, if you want to make new friends and geek out about your favorite miniatures, or just talk about your new favorite hobby, being part of the tabletop community is what sets it apart from other hobbies. Because nowhere is there a hobby that's so welcoming to new players and hobbyists, results may vary. Now, I've been a part of multiple communities over the years like cosplay, TCGs, various video game genres, etc, etc. But none of them have been as welcoming, except for the model train hobby of course, like the tabletop board game community. And I say tabletop wargame community because usually we don't all just play Warhammer for obvious reasons. We play a variety of games like Conflict 47, Battletech, Trench Crusade, Wasteland Warfare, Crisis Protocol, Blackout, and the list goes on. We do this because, like I mentioned earlier, GW does like to inshitify the game systems every few years, which gets people to buy into their other IPs according to the Warhammer iceberg, or just abandon ship for another game. But I have made many great friends throughout the years from Warhammer that you might have seen on the channel like Ikbar, Doom, or Matt, which is why the community itself is a great reason to get into Warhammer. So now I feel like I should of course talk about the negatives because this is YouTube, and also because I'm not a GW shill since some of you idiots think I am. In a rant I like to call, Why Warhammer? So one of the reasons you shouldn't get into Warhammer is of course the price. My god, has the price started to get out of control these past few years, and yes, old Hammer players, I know it's ridiculous compared to ancient times. But if we use my channel's mascot, the Warlord Titan, as an example, when I bought it back in 2019, the cost of a Warlord Titan body was $1,300. Yes, very affordable. And if we include all the weapons and heads I bought, the grand total for everything comes out to roughly $2,357. Then if we compare it to today's prices, the cost of the body is $1,955, each weapon is $180, with the laser blasters being $240 now, and the heads are $132, for a grand total of about $3,500. What the f? But I digress. The next reason is that if you want to play, expect the rules to be and your codexes to be outdated the moment it's released because reasons. I don't understand why in the year of 2025 the rules still aren't free online like every other tabletop war game, and their stupid subscription service doesn't even come with all of them for free. Also, for everyone interested in the lore, I hope you're ready to wait in line when the GW store opens, or you're prepared for the F5 war against all the bots. Because if you want that book and you miss out, you ain't seeing it till it gets reprinted, if it ever does. I'm sure you all probably realized by now this is literally just a rant about the company Games Workshop, which is the final reason why you should probably think about before getting into Warhammer, and that's the company itself. Now, I could be the Warhammer complainy guy for hours, but I don't like editing really long videos, so for now you've been spared. But in conclusion, why Warhammer is a multifaceted question that has many answers and ways to be interpreted. So if you're interested in the lore, video games, or the hobby side, maybe ask yourself the question, why Warhammer? Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and a huge thank you to the Gigas of the Chads right here, the channel members and Twitch subscribers. So if you too want to be a Giga Chad and help fund these stupid ventures, consider becoming a member of either for access to the members section of the Discord and other things. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe along with Super Hype if you're on mobile, but I have to go make more terrible financial decisions. So I'll see you all in the next video, and remember, when you play Warhammer, being poor is a choice.